My name is Siri Imani. I am a poet, creator, curator, mom, daughter, person. Yeah. Cincinnati, Ohio, born and raised. Yeah. 5'17". I'm a Taurus baby. Yeah, I was supposed to be born on my dad's birthday, but I waited like 2 extra days. Stubbornness of it all. I'm a 95 baby. I'll be 30 next year. We're getting there. So my family was one of the first Black families to move into Madisonville around like the 40s. My grandpa built the house like from scratch. It was only like 2 rooms in there. And it was one of those, they called it crop houses because whenever the crops would do well, the money would then go to making another room in the house. And every year, just another room got added and added until it finally became our family house, which has been there since my grandma was growing up. It was my great-grandparents' house, so it'll be passed to me, it'll be passed to my kids in Madisonville.
Where did your grandparents move from?
Alabama. Yeah, so my people are country. They country. Cincinnati kind of is country anyway, but they moved up here, again, because it was like a sustaining neighborhood that Black families could come in, they could make money, and then they could actually have like a decent quality of life. So they moved up here and they stayed. Matriarchs. My family is strong matriarchs, you can probably tell. It was really my grandma and my mom and I. My great-grandma was in the house when I was growing up. She passed away when I was about 10 years old. And then my grandma and my mom basically raised me my whole life. I have had some interactions with my dad's side, but not too much. So it really was just with my mom. And yeah, it was beautiful though. My grandma and my mom are strong. They're the strongest people I've ever known in my life. So it shaped me. My mom's different. She is different. So I have one blood brother. I have one actual blood brother, and he was born when I was like 19 years old. It was very random, but like I was asking for it my whole life. So by the time I was 19, I was like, ah. And then as soon as he was born, I was like, oh, that was my first child, basically. But that's my only sibling I have, is my little brother Sammy. Everybody else that you see me with is really just people I've known for over 15 years. Some are actual like blood cousins, but outside of that, my main support system is full of people I've known since I was in high school, elementary school, and we literally just watch each other grow up. It was cool. I mean, growing up in Madison, my mom was very like, she was gonna try to shelter me as much as she could. Like my mom had me in extracurricular after every school day. She had me in a book. She had me writing. Like my mom kept me busy. So any distraction could not get to me. She barely let me like walk outside and stuff like that. I would a little bit, but it wasn't until like my teenage years that I started experiencing what my neighborhood was even like. I did not see it growing up because my mom was like, no. And then once I got older, naturally you rebel a little bit. You start to meet people, have these opportunities here and there to just go outside. And it was some trouble out there for sure. It was a lot of trouble out there. I got in a lot of trouble at times, but I think overall that's where I met a lot of the people that I'm with today. Like we all were kind of just lost and kids. And even though, we had great support systems and great like parents, which I credit to, I don't know how they did it in those situations because we were still very much struggling. And then you go outside and it's just all these distractions. And then in your head, you see a lot of different ways to make your situation better that ultimately just makes it worse. And we all had to experience that together and grow through that, grow up around it, all of that. So, a part of you was like, dang, Mom, why you ain't tell me? But then you completely understand, like, all right, I didn't need to be there. And then the type of spirit that I think my mom knew I had before I even knew I had, she was like, no, we need to keep you exactly the way you are. Do not get those outside influences. You don't need to start not thinking for yourself, you know what I'm saying? So I know exactly why my mom, like, attempted to shelter me the way she did. That being said, it was a culture shock when I went outside and I'm like, oh, we all think completely different. And now I'm at a disadvantage if I don't think the way you all think. So it was definitely something I had to adapt to. But again, I credit my mom on giving me a lot of tools. Once she realized, all right, you here now, you see what's going on, she taught me more of that like street smart aspect as well. So I just was able to survive, honestly. My mom, I always joke, like I literally just copied my mom. She did everything that I do now. She was one of the first people who had a slam team here. She had events, poetry slams, open mics, all of that stuff. So when I was young, I was like in the back of these bars, like watching them get ready for a poetry slam. I was at Eden Park while they would like just be doing these pop-offs. I just grew up around cultures, but like different ways of expressing the same thing they were all experiencing. So I'm just seeing like all these different art forms and everybody saying the same thing, but they're doing it completely different. They look completely different. And I'm just like a sponge. It's like, okay, I want to be you, I want to be you, I want to be you, I want to be you. And then once I grew up, I think I was able to find like a mixture of everything that I loved about them, and then also in finding out who I was able to be who I am. Yeah. Like I just wanted to do what my mama did. I didn't even have a love for writing at that time. I just loved my mama. I was like, is this what we do? This what we do? We're writers? Okay, cool, good. And my grandma's a writer too. So my grandma is an editor, and my mom is a poet. So I was like, clearly that's what we do. You know, my mom's last name and my grandma's last name is Wright. So I was like,
Family business.
all the signs are here. You know what I'm saying? It's fine. This is what we do. But I think it was always supposed to be a part of me because I love expressing myself, and I love when I can find like the exact words to to translate what I'm feeling to somebody. When I can articulate myself correctly, that's like one of the biggest highs for me. So I think it made sense that I became a writer or a poet or a singer, rapper, all of those things. I went to performing arts. So I started off at SHU and then went to performing arts. And then I ended up moving to California for about a year and a half, came back, and the waiting list at SCPA was too long. So then I ended up going to Withrow, and that's why I say I had that culture shock, where now I'm a teenager and I'm in a completely, SCPA, the way the resources go, the way staffing goes, the way that they handle children, the way everything was night and day to what I was experiencing the first time I went into Withrow, and I'm like, no arts? We gotta be in sports and military? Like that's the only options here. It was complete culture shock. And you see the way kids, from seeing both sides, I see exactly the way kids respond to those environments when you pushing different things on them or where you're exposing them to different things. So when I went there, it felt like all my options went like this. And that's when I started playing basketball and said, forget writing. So my mom's side of the family, half of them are from Alabama on my grandma's side, and then the other ones are in Sacramento. So I went to stay with I lived with my mom. So we went to move in with her dad for about a year and a half, and I was playing basketball. So I really thought like, that's what I wanted to do, honestly, before I did writing, like fully. I wanted to be a basketball player. So my grandpa, he was a basketball player. My mom's sister, she used to play for Berkeley. That whole side of my family is all basketball. They all 6 foot. I joke all the time, like my dad ruled my height. What you see is not what I'm supposed to be, okay? I'm supposed to be about 6'3", and that's all from my mom's side. So I went out there and I started doing, because when I went to SCPA, I was still playing basketball, and that's when I like fell in love with basketball, but it wasn't the competitive league for it. I wasn't gonna get a scholarship if I kept playing like in an artistic league. It was more like artistic and Catholic churches, which it was fun, but that wasn't what scouts were looking at. I needed to go to a more competitive level. So went to California, I trained with my grandpa. I started going around to AAU, being seen, just getting my name up. Then we moved back to Cincinnati, and I got recruited by Dante Harlan, and he was the current coach at Withrow. And I was like, it was between Withrow and Walnut, and I chose Withrow. And my grandma had graduated from Withrow, my grandpa graduated from Withrow, so I was like, all right, let's do it. So I went there, jumped straight into the basketball program, and ended up getting my scholarship there. I say after surgery 5, I was like, maybe not the one. So basketball was great. Like I loved everything about basketball, despite my height, which was against me a lot of time, especially when it was time to go into college ball. And I started playing with these girls from Michigan. I mean, they are towering over me, okay? Like they're towering over me, but I was scruffy, so I would get in there, and I think that's what like a lot of the coaches liked. So I ended up playing in Michigan, and it was the time of my life. But even before that, it was wild. The last day of like high school, like during graduation, my ACL fully tore. So I was practicing my whole senior year, playing my whole senior year in high school with a partially torn ACL. Didn't know it. My pain tolerance at that time was high. Adrenaline was always going. And I'm like, I'm about to get a scholarship. I'm not going to doctor right now. I don't even need to know. I was in that mode. So my ACL ended up tearing, and I remember having to call my coach and tell him like, this is like maybe 2 weeks before I'm about to go to my conditioning and stuff. I had to tell him like, yeah, my ACL's torn. And I was just waiting for him to tell me like, all right, well, we can't give you the scholarship anymore. But he held it. And shout out Coach Coop. He held that scholarship, and I got to recover. Now, mind you, the recovery is supposed to be about 6 to 8 months. Realistically, I came back in 4 because, I didn't have time. So as soon as I was able to walk and run a little bit, I went back up there for conditioning, started getting the rest of my body together while I was redshirting, and then by the middle of the season, I was back in there. And I came hard, like 20 points a game back in there, but stupid stuff, because of course, the year later, I tore it again. And then I tore my meniscus with it. And then at that point, I had already torn my rotator cuff, so I had that surgery on me. That was in high school. Had a boxer's fracture. That was in high school. And then while I was recovering from my last meniscus tour, my appendix randomly ruptured. And that was just kind of like my sign. I was like, your body is telling you like stop. And I was stubborn, in my head, especially like if anybody's an athlete and you get to the college, like collegiate level, you have spent so much time at that point. Your body has went through so much. It's almost like you can't let go of it because you got to make it worth it. So I was holding on to that idea, like none of this matters. Anything I did before now doesn't matter if I don't keep going. And that's what ended up tearing my body up. So after that last surgery, I was on a cane for about 2 years. And I was 18 and 19 years old. So I'm back in Cincinnati. I lost my scholarship, just had to let it go because I couldn't play. And I'm walking around with a cane. And I'll never forget, it was my friend Brianna, like she was trying to get me out of the house. And I'm like, no, like people are used to seeing me out here jumping and stuff. I'm not about to walk around this cane. She's like, no, it's a poetry night, just come. And I'm like, So I go to the Mockbee with her, and it's the first time I ever see Lex, Nicole, Ashley, Cox, the twins, all of them in there doing speak. And it's just an open mic, and Bree's like, I can't remember, they're like, somebody want to perform? And I'm like, no, I'm trying to be invisible at this point. Bree's like, yeah, we will. So Bree get up there and is pointing to me next. And I'm like, so I just do like a random old poem, and like, again, when you do this your whole life, you get desensitized to yourself. You stop thinking that your stuff is good. So when I heard that reaction, and I'm like, and they not paying attention, because I remember I was so ridiculous with it. Like I propped my cane against the wall and then tried to like walk up straight, like, and then just shifted my weight on one side and then the whole poem like this, basically. But they loved it, and I was like, oh, okay. And that feeling it gave me that same type of feeling I had on the court when I was like, all right, like you make a layup and everybody like, woo. I was like, okay, this exists somewhere else. And then I started just doing recycled poems. I would come back every week and I'd do it. And then that's when Lex and Ashley really like started to see me too. And they started to invite me to more stuff. They started managing me really, like, and getting me out there. And from that point on, that's why I met Aziza, that's why I met Peace. And then I never went back. I met them all at the Mockbee.
What year was this roughly?
This was 2017.
What year did you graduate high school?
I graduated 2013. So I played for 2 years. I played for about a year and a half, 2 years, got out at 2015. And then I was on the cane and I was just in the house until about 2017, top of 2017. Oh no, Lake Michigan. Yeah, it's in Benton Harbor. And the plan was I was gonna play overseas eventually. Like I was that competitive at that time that if I would have been healthy, I definitely could have done that, but it just that was not for me at all. My body said absolutely not. But I think having that time when my body just had to be still, that's when I started writing all those poems and stuff. That's when I started writing like Lost Generation, I Want to Be Loved, all the poems that I like emerged on the Cincinnati scene with. I was just in my bed with my knee propped up. Like, I don't know what else to do. Man, I was kind of just going to different ones. I think it was really probably Lex's Poetry Slam because that was the one that was the biggest at the time. Like Speak drew out a lot of different people. So I think like, you know how it is in Cincinnati, people see you perform 3 times as a new person and it's kind of like a buzz, like what's going on? You know what I'm saying? So I think it was momentum that was coming. And I want to say Javier reached out to me, and Too Urban honestly was a reaction to what happened at Treehouse. So that's really what I think came in it, because people knew that I was an activist already. Because when I first started doing poetry, I immediately started like doing the Black Lives Matter rallies too. Like Sam DuBose's family had hit me up. That's when I wrote Lost Generation and all of that. And I started doing that as well. So I think I started getting known more for activism than poetry at the time. And I think that's when Javier hit me up about the situation that happened at Treehouse. And all of us were like, nah, we're not doing that. So it just was like an outpour of support. And I think that's how Too Urban ended up, because they told them they were too urban, right? And then that's how Too Urban got started. Right. And that's how Too Urban got started. And I was like, oh yeah, I can get behind that. So I remember being in there. I remember we did like a poetry workshop and stuff like that. I was just kind of down for whatever they needed. The Chase Public, the Chase Response Project, we were all at Speak, and that's where I met them, because they were managing Aziza already, and then Peace was like, he just would come in with like Perez, and like he would be on his drum pad and he'd be doing like random beats to the background and stuff. So we would meet, And then he would, after speak, he would invite all the creators like to their house. They lived over in Clifton, and then everybody would come over and be like a big jam session. Like any instrument you had, we'd be playing just in the living room. People start rapping, people start singing, and they're recording the whole thing. So we would do those jam sessions, and like we just all gravitated towards each other over time. Jessie Jumanji hit me up, and she had seen a Lost Generation poem at the Sam DuBose rally, and I can't remember exactly what she was just saying. Like she wanted to work more, and I was like, absolutely. So started inviting her to stuff, and then while we would be rapping and stuff, she'd be in the background painting, and then she would paint basically the feeling of what we all just did, and it just started to make sense. And then we would have these conversations, and all of us had like these aspirations for community projects, all completely different angles that we were coming from, but still like we had different things that we wanted to do, and we figured out, all right, a painter, a poet, a producer, a singer, we could probably make this something, and let's make it a collective. So it started off as Black Seeds, and that's how it formed. Black Seeds became Tribe, I want to say around 2018. I want to say around 2018. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure it was about 2018. Jessie's sister, Jillian, she got a opportunity to work with Dr. Dre and like Beats headphones in LA. So rightfully so, Jessie went there and then got a lot of opportunities through her sister Jill. So then we were all in Cincinnati, and we're like, okay, well, we need to figure out, you know, how are we gonna rebrand from that? And then I had always like made acronyms. That was just my thing, like Black Seeds, Tribe, you know, all of that. So I'm thinking of like, what's the next acronym? And I'm like, I can live with dropping Black Seed, but Tribe just felt like the one. And at that time, the Tribe call had started like while we were still Black Seeds. It started like at Apartment 23 during one of like Real Aside concerts. And I just was like, Tribe? Everybody was like, Tribe? And I was like, Tribe? Try, yeah, you know, I'm just trying stuff. But like, yeah, that's exactly how that happened. So at that point, I was like, no, that's something that feels right. So I was like, let's just be Tribe. I was like, let's create an acronym, okay? And we just started working through all of the ideas, and then we also started working on like, we taught ourselves branding because we didn't know how to do any of that. Like if you look at some of our stuff from 2017, it's just raw talent. Like it's messy, and you know how the beginning of the journey starts. There's no structure to it. It's a lot of trial and error. We're figuring out what even is marketing, what is branding, what does all of this stuff mean. So we're asking people, anybody who would give us advice, and we're also Googling stuff and figuring out how to like visually make ourselves everywhere before we're getting invited everywhere, because we weren't. So that was kind of like where Tribe started propelling. I think it was a mixture of me and Z writing a lot of music, a lot of content, a lot of like ideas, and then Peace figuring out a way to do the media for that and blow us up. And I think once Spaces started banking on us and we got that validity, that's when things just kind of took off from there. And then we started making our own stuff, and that, yeah. So I Am What I Am was the first project I ever released, and it was the first and only project the Tribe released. So I Am What I Am dropped, I want to say that was 2018 as well. Yeah, it dropped 2018. And then 2 years later, I dropped my debut project, which was Duality. That was like COVID time, middle of COVID. And then I dropped Big Fish after that, and that was 2022. And then I just dropped Soft Life, and that's where we at now. And then a ton of features in between there, but yeah. Yeah, so the best thing about South by Southwest for me was I got to really, I leveled up on my guerrilla marketing. Like, I've never seen something like that in my life, and I had been told kind of how it was. And then I also had like, as artists, you're gonna see a lot of like South by Southwest scams, and I had to navigate through that, like where people was like, hey, give me $2,000, I'll make sure you perform here, a place that you can just walk up on, you know what I'm saying? So I had to navigate that. Like, I think we all went down there just on a limb. We packed up a van, got a rental, drove 12 hours down there, and then we went straight to the street. We knew that 6th Street, 7th Street was gonna be where all like the pop-up opportunities were. We brought a little speaker, a little Bluetooth speaker, had a little Bluetooth mic. We were just on the corner, just rapping. First day, somebody sees us, they're like, hey, we got an activation down here. Is that a garden? We're like, oh, a garden? We work in gardens, you know what I'm saying? We over here just networking and just piecing it up. Like, and we ended up securing like 3 or 4 performances and getting paid for 2 of them. And it was just off of going down there and like being seen. We just had to make ourselves visible. We were rapping like we were paying rent. I'm on the street just I'm in people's face like you know, I'm young too, so I got all that fresh raw energy. And then I'm also a woman. I was up there with the big overalls back then. I had the face paint, all of that. So they just like, what and who is this? And we were riding that out. We ended up in all type of like spaces that we needed to be in at the time, and made a lot of connections while we were down there that I still work with today, and honestly propelled us from that point. Well, Tribe officially ended, I want to say, like a little bit after COVID, so it was around 2021. And like normal Siri fashion, I'm going to be the last person to let go of something. Like, always. Just like basketball. You know what I'm saying? I ain't going to hold you. I got to be like kicked into my next chapter. I can't naturally just gracefully walk through it like everybody else. I envy that. But I was like holding on to Tribe. I think at that point, it was time for, we all were solo artists, to be clear. Like, we were just in a collective, and it worked. And it did exactly what it needed to do at the time. And especially when the city, I feel like, needed that. You know what I'm saying? It desensitized a lot of people to hip hop. It was like, okay, this is not something that we can't touch. It's not something that doesn't have like a place in a corporate world. It's not something that doesn't have a place in these festivals. Like, we were able to validate like a lot of, and our counterparts at the same time too, were doing the same thing. Like, we were just doing good work in hip hop community, and it was starting to really ring as something that was like also a genre that should be considered and booked as well. So I feel like it was exactly what it needed to be. That being said, like I said, I'm the last person to let something go. So I'm still thinking like, no, group. We're a group. We're a group. And I think everybody was ready to move on. Like, Aziza is an amazing artist, and she's an amazing solo artist. And in my opinion at the time, because I had just started, like, I went into Tribe and I learned how to rap being around them. I didn't know how to rap until then. I was a poet only, and I was like stubborn, like, no, I am only a poet. I am terrified of rap. I can't rap. Don't ask me to do it. You know what I'm saying? But I learned how to rap when I was around them. I think Peace learned a lot of songwriting as well when he was around us, and just like different ways to work his voice. I think Z was already established. In my opinion, like, she has spent her whole life in her basement, you know what I'm saying, just practicing all these instruments, practicing her voice. So I felt like she already on an artistic level or an artistry level, she was already established. And I felt like she needed to go off and have her moment where she was Aziza Love, you know what I'm saying? I was not Siri Imani to be able to understand that at that time. I was Siri Imani, but not in my head. You know what I'm saying? I was a third of Tribe at that point. So it took me a minute to kind of be like, I don't really know what I want to do. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to continue music, because I'm like, I feel behind on my music journey. I feel like my music only made sense when it was next to y'all. I had to go through all of those like codependency detachments, you know what I'm saying? So in that journey of just like feeling that through, I started writing. Naturally, the only thing that made sense, I started writing and I started rapping. Like, I really started rapping. And then Just Lamb, I had always known Just Lamb when we were a part of Tribe. But that's when me and her became like true family, because I think she just saw me. Like, I think she just could tell. Like, she was like, you drowning a little bit, like, you don't know what to do. And I'm like, no, I don't. I always call her my fairy godmama, because she called me and she just like, you want to make some music? And, you know, Just Lamb has been established for years. So I've always like been really grateful that somebody who was established and had all of this in my head looked back at me and saw something. So I was like, okay, I'm there. So I remember going to the Sky Deck with Warren Harrison and Chris, and just doing, we recorded Beautiful, we recorded Center of It All, we recorded some of the songs that didn't even come out until like Soft Life is where Center of It All debuted. You know, Dig Deep is songs I have with Jess, Beautiful songs I have with Jess. Like, all of those stuff got written around that time where I was not Siri Imani or Tribe. I was writing and I was just, you know, figuring it out. Like, going through those, what is gonna be my permanent place? What does it look like for me? And Jess Lamb, just the type of conversations I would have with her, she has the most subtle way of pushing you. Like, you don't even realize she just kicked you until you on the other side. Like, she'll say you some stuff that you'll never unhear again. She'll pose some ideas about yourself that you can never unthink. And then I started to understand, like, okay, like, it was always magic in just the person I am. And that was the thing that made Tribe so beautiful, because every single person had this very distinct magic that nobody in the world has. And I didn't know what mine was at that time until I started working with Jess. And I was like, okay, all right. I started gaining confidence, like, and a sound. You know what I'm saying? When you don't know your sound, there's no confidence to really articulate your message. But I started just not caring what my sound was, and I started creating with and without Jess. And then it was like training wheels. Like started with Jess, then I would go without Jess, and then with Jess, and then slowly I just started doing it all by myself. And I mean, me and Jess always worked together to the end of time, but like I started figuring it out by myself. And then once I did that, I did not look back. I did. Definitely, Jess Lim, definitely my favorite collab. Favorite collab. Inspiration is always my mom. Always all those poets that I grew up around. I would be disrespectful to try to list them all because I would miss them. But y'all know who y'all are, okay? All of the poets that I grew up around are really my main inspiration. Artistically, and then also just human-wise, I feel like they had to navigate 10 times like worse of a climate than I am right now. And they were dealing with riots, they were dealing with like shootings, police beatings, they were dealing with all type of stuff that I just don't even have to think about in creating my artistry. It's not even a part of my story at this point because they were loud about what was going on. So I'm inspired by them. Just Lim is definitely my favorite collab. Close second is Too Rich. I think that's one of my favorite, that's one of my most fun collabs. Safa, I like working with Safa. She got a different type of thing going on. And then Devin Burgess, any beat I get by Devin Burgess, I'm about to go crazy on it. So I think for consistently, and of course Tribe, but that don't even, that don't even count. But anybody outside of that, say those are my most consistent like feature opportunities and the ones I enjoy the most. Right now, I'm really trying to do more for Siri Imani because I always am in the group oriented. I'm pretty much working on like myself and 10 other people's careers too because I just want us to all, get there. But I think what's next immediately, like, is what I've always done. Like, I have to go by myself, propel, and then I can bring us back up, and then I have to go off again, propel, and then I have more to offer. And I feel like every time I go on that, like, solo journey, I end up gaining more to then be able to offer to people that I'm doing this for as well. So I feel like another one of those is coming now. I've been talking about doing a lot of touring, going overseas. A lot of people who I've been talking, about the features with, Too Rich, Jess, like all of us talking about touring and going out and just figuring out ways that we can elevate what we're already doing while having the stuff that's in place here, and then also being able to create those pipelines and bring back any opportunities that we acquire like on the way. So I see that happening. And then later on, I see myself managing artists. I feel like I'm gonna end up being somebody who just finds talent, helps them figure out like this is what you need to do to get to the next level, and then gets them in front of the right people in the right places and all of that. I feel like that's what I do already, but on like a very accelerated level. Tribe, the group and Tribe Foundation started pretty much at the same time. It took us more time to figure out Tribe Foundation. I say that because music is one thing, but when you get into philanthropic endeavors, it is, oof. Like it's a humbling experience. And we were just, again, young, raw talent, raw emotions, very good intentions, but just everything raw, you know what I'm saying? So when we first started figuring out, like I said before, we all had different places we wanted to affect the community. Mine was always people experiencing homelessness. Z's was more so like nutrition based. Like how do we make sure people have access to healthy food, not just food, but healthy food. Peace was more so garden as well, like, and then cleaning the streets, the street sweeps and all of that. And then Jesse was more like political statements. So we all figured out like ways to lend our talents for everybody's like personal goals. So honestly, Z was the person who started Potluck, and it was just her making like this lentil soup that was like a mega like nutrient soup, and then taking it down to Paya Park, and we had like one table and had this big pot of soup, and we would just sit around it and would just wait. Didn't know how to, and then mind you, we so young, so first time we didn't bring bowls. Didn't bring, yeah, it's goofy. Didn't bring spoons, something, the little things you don't even think about. They come in like, okay, is that water? Oh, like it's trial and error. It's goofy. It's really goofy, but it's good intentions. We just learning, like we literally learning every single day. So, all right, you need water, got it. Next time we bring water, do y'all have any like crackers? Got it. Next time we bring in crackers, can we get hygiene products? Duh, you know what I'm saying? Like, so we're asking the community at the same time, like, okay, we just realized this is also a need as well. Can anybody drop these off? Can anybody bring these? We'll put them in packages if you can pick them up. here's an Amazon wish list. You can get this directly. So you know what I'm saying? Doing all of that. And it was slow for a while. It was very slow for a while, but I think it was when what propelled us, ironically, was when the park did the bill against us. And the park sent the bill to my mom. And it was like, all right, y'all are feeding people in our park without a permit for the past, I think it was like 2-3 months we were racked up. So you're gonna need to pay this outstanding balance of like $1,500. Me being young, hot-headed, I screenshot it, I posted on Facebook. And I mean,
As one does.
I was young too. You couldn't tell me anything, okay? I was like, nah, you're not gonna bill my mom. I'm like, I'm trying to feed people. At this time, I didn't understand how anything worked. I didn't understand how permits, zoning worked. There was nobody to teach me that. I didn't even understand how the deeper picture of why you wouldn't want me to do this works. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, nah, this is 1 + 1 equals, why do you want me out of this park? I'm literally feeding people here. So I went online, and from that moment, that's when like I really saw community power, I think, because it was immediate. It was immediate. And at that time, I can't say like I was well known, but I think it was just like the audacity of it and just how blatantly wrong it was. It was like people understood, like, nah, this has to change. So they started like tanking the Cincy Park ratings, and literally the next day I'm getting a call from Cincy Parks like, hey, we would like to mediate this. And then wild enough, it was via United Way. And that's when I started meeting people from United Way as well, and end up getting on the board for United Way 2 years later. And it was all from that one interaction, like where it was like, why are y'all doing this? And then I also learned a lot about how to deal with those entities as well, like in the midst of all of that. And we end up getting the policy overturned. And that was like the moment for me where I was like, oh, y'all should never know. Y'all shouldn't let me know this. Like, all I need to know, all I got to do is tell people what's going on. They rightfully react how a community should react to something that shouldn't be happening. Y'all fear that and y'all change it to what's right? Oh yeah, should never found that out. So from that moment on, I was like, I got you. And I realized what Tribe could be too. And it started being like really not only a philanthropic group, but a group that like pushed for a lot of accountability. Like people started reaching out to us for situations like that. We just got kicked out of here. We were trying to do this. On the way, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it made sense too. And I had so much fire under me at that time. I'm like, I was radical at that time. I was like, no, hard nose on everything. I'm not going to negotiate. I'm not about to bend. Nah, it's just a no. You know what's wrong. I know what's wrong. They know what's wrong. We all saying they need to change. I don't care if it's a policy. I don't care if it's been out here before I even had time to or was alive to vote for it. We don't want it anymore. And that's kind of where a lot of the fire for Tribe Foundation, like, it's where it really blew up and people started to really see this as something that could get things done. And I think the community at that time understood, like, if we keep propelling them, if we keep supporting them, if we show them that people got their back and they will be held accountable for mistreating this group or anything they're trying to do, then they can actually get some stuff done. And we were able to get a lot done.
Yeah. Why haven't you stayed in Cincinnati? Why haven't you gone to the coast? Why haven't you gone to...
I told you, Clarity, I'm the last one to let go. I'm the last one that's gonna let go, okay? At all times, even when I should. But to be fair, my optimism, which I will die on that hill, is that once we handle a lot of like the desperate factor, which really comes from the lack of resources that we all have. If everybody had a fair chance, I don't think we would see the cycles that we see all the time where you have people who try to come in, they try to do beautiful things here, they try to help. But at the same time, it's like you throw a steak in one room full of 20 lions. And even if that first lion that get the steak is splitting it up to give to other people, it doesn't matter. If they're starving, they're gonna attack the lion that got that steak. And I think a lot of times our leaders feel that here. I know myself, I felt that here, and I think that's what created my disconnect from Cincinnati, because it's real hard to, like, you already fighting corporate to make sure they understand the value of the community. Now you're fighting the community to make sure they understand, like, the value of even your sustainability, and then also the value of the vision. And it takes a bird's eye view to already be in these situations, but masses don't necessarily have bird's eye views. They have what's directly in front of them and their needs that's directly in front of them. And the goal was always to help with those and assist with those. But I think in that in-between level, before you're able to make drastic change, which comes from having those big budgets, having a big name, a lot of influence, and when you're just a community leader, a local community leader, that in-between part is when it's the hardest, because you can still lose everything based off of a community that don't understand you. Or you can still lose everything for this community based off of corporate who don't understand you. If you lose influence on either side, the opportunities for everybody tanks. And I think that type of pressure going back and forth as leaders, it either makes you or breaks you, or both. You know what I'm saying? I've been made and broken from this many times. And it's just come from like a frustration of like, y'all gotta see me trying. And I think, again, when you're just in it and you are like, all these people out here, all these artists out here, they're living these lives every second and they don't have what they need. They do not have what they need. They are in places that are draining their spirits just so they can eat that day. They're spending all their money that they just worked for just to make a mixtape, you know what I'm saying? Like they're not seeing the type of experiences that they imagine. And the type of experiences, fair enough, they should experience. But what they are seeing from an outside perspective is Siri at Blink, or Tribe at Oktoberfest, or this at, you know what I'm saying? And even if we're bringing 100 artists with us, even if, you know what I'm saying, the opportunities are getting extended as soon as they're given, when you are in the middle of that like downtime, I know what it looks like to look up and see a whole bunch of people shining, and you just as qualified. I feel like there's so many artists that artistry-wise, blowing me out the water. And that's what I'm trying to find them, you know what I'm saying? But I think until you can get to the other side of your needs being met, you're gonna always have a distorted view of what's happening and what needs to happen. And my optimism is that we can get close. We can get as close as possible to creating like a climate where artists can think clearly, where artists are not like so like swamped with just how do I fix my life? How do I get the life that I wanted? How do I pay this bill? How do I eat? How do I support my family? I'm getting older. You know, when all those thoughts are not just running rampant in your head, I feel like all of us will be able to see our roles and accept them, because they'll be good. It won't be 3 people who are getting everything and then everybody else is like fighting for scraps as far as opportunities. And then those leaders that are trying to do that will stay longer as well, because they'll be understood. I think on both ends, you got people who are not getting what they need, and then the people who are trying to get what everybody needs, they're not getting that love back. So it's you seeing these falls, these rise and falls, where people are doing amazing, and then you see them crash out, and it's rightfully so, because nobody was supposed to experience it like this. I think with social media and stuff like that, we have a better chance of getting there like overnight without having to be gigs, do gig after gig after gig, gain that validity like honestly we did over years. You could go viral on TikTok tomorrow. I've seen it. I've seen an artist come in my open mic, they are first performance, but they put that song out. They had a great market plan on TikTok, blew up, 1 million followers the next day. You know what I'm saying? And now they're gigging off of that. So there are more tools, I feel like, for this generation growing up after us, where they'll be able to get there quicker. And then that makes sense, like to have that mindset, like, yeah, you could do that here. I think for a while we knew you can't really do that here. Like it's not, you can survive here, you can create amazing culture, you can create moments here, but you are not going to get to that level of influence and financial stability here at the current climate. You know what I'm saying? But I do think it will happen. I would do all type of stuff differently. After the first surgery, I would have started writing poetry. Okay, let's start there. But no, I think just again a lot of the times that I didn't realize it was time for me to let go. I think that was my major regrets, because not only was it detrimental to like my legacy at times, because I felt like I stopped doing my best work when I was frustrated. I wasn't able to show up. I wasn't able to remember dates, and then also I was taking care of my mom at the same time and my grandma at the same time. I think one of my major regrets is like I couldn't have predicted how much time we would have had with my grandma, but I was still like, so I gotta work, I gotta do this. I was like neglecting the major parts of my life that I ended up missing the most. And then again, that's where a lot of these leaders, you experience this stuff on the outside, and then you come back and then everybody's like, where you been, what you got for me? It's just like, whew, nothing. So some of my biggest regrets was just not stepping back and preserving myself. I've been learning a lot about just, if I want to be the leader I imagine myself being, I have to keep myself healthy because I will lack. I will absolutely lack. I will fall off. The same power I have to be good, I have to be bad. And I know that's literally just processing trauma wrong in either direction. So I'm just doing my best to like keep my head right, keep my spirit right, keep the right people around me, limit the amount of times I experience like negative human interactions just for my own psyche and what I want to do for people. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Yeah, I got 3 babies. So we have from the oldest, Coleman. He is a Cancer. He is just like my mama. He is just like my mama, just a ball of energy. He's gonna be an engineer or something like that. He's just real technical, obsessed with planes, obsessed with Legos, just brilliant. Oh, he's gonna be 11. He's gonna be 11. And then Kyson is the Scorpio baby. He is like antisocial. Kyson's like, I'm gonna be over there where all the kids are running around. When all the kids are like running around, they're like, ah. Kyson's in the corner like, with that face exactly, just. But brilliant though. On the media side, he's brilliant. He like really Roblox is his thing, but he's so smart with like the servers and coding and all of that. He's probably gonna be like my skater dude, wild card. You know what I'm saying? He's real cool, man. Everybody loves him. Chloe is my Aquarius. That is my baby. She is the wild child. She's me. She's gonna be the heir of it all. Like she is just. Chloe is just. She's like the Hulk with a princess dress on. Like she's wild, but she's exactly what she's supposed to be. Her confidence is just radiated. She's that person who's like, if she see a kid over there, she gonna grab the kid and be like, come on, let's go play. Look, this is my friend, and this is what we're gonna do. And I'm like, oh my God. But
How old's Chloe?
oh, Chloe's 5. She's big now. Big. In my head, Chloe's still 2.
Now, do you all still live in Madisonville? Do you all?
Yeah. Yeah. And in a family house.
Yeah.
Every time it passed on when my grandma passed away, my mom moved into it. And then we end up rebuilding the whole house, creating like this big fence around it. My mom's garden is there now, thriving. You can always come to the garden when you want to. But yeah, it feels like how I did when I was growing up, like just a community house. The I Am What I Am was recorded in multiple places. It was recorded in Incognitos. It was recorded a little bit at Timeless. We recorded some like in the living room, but ultimately the star of I Am What I Am is Devin Burgess. He's always been the mix and master of every project that I drop. And that was the project like where we sat next to him for production, and like we would go over every song right next to him and kind of figure out what we wanted it to sound like. We actually, so it was narrated by this man named Robert Thomas, and he used to be in the media center in the library all the time. He was an older man, and he was always in like he was always doing like makerspace stuff, and we just would start to talk to him, and he would tell us about all these like freedom movements that he was a part of like back in the day. And so I always like theatrical stuff in my albums. Like I like to do narrations. I like to have like an elder speak or like just really profound statements before you go into like the sounds. And I was thinking like, who do we have narrate this? And we like, hold on, because he also had one of those voices. Like he sounded like Father Time. Like he was so wise, you know what I'm saying? So we just sat down and had like a 20-minute conversation with him, and we just asked him things about his life. We asked him, you know, based off of like the songs we had, like we would ask him those things, like, how do you feel about gossip? How do you feel about lights and all the, you know what I'm saying? And we would have him like respond and give us like his real advice on a lot of these situations. And then with Devin, we pieced them all together to create like these cohesive messages where he was narrating like the entire album, and it was just him giving us like these gems, these absolute gems. I've been trying to find him since then. I don't know where he is. I hope I run into him one day. We had every strategy. So we did it online. I got physical copies. I was walking around with the physical copies. I was posting them, hey, let me know, I'll drop off. I want a copy, $15, 2 p.m., I'll come bring it to you. I was pulling up on people, dropping off copies. We ended up getting it on vinyl as well. and then did like a little party for that. Also, we kind of went every route. Yeah, they reached out to us. It was actually a Goods record store over on Montgomery Street. Yeah, it was someone from there. They reached out to us and they were like, we would really like to get I Am What I Am on vinyl. We can do like I think it was like 50 copies at the time. They're out there somewhere. I know my mom has one, but yeah, that's how we got involved because I would have never known at that time how to do that. But once he said it, I was like, y'all, we got to do this. This is going to be amazing. Like, and then we just got it done. So when I was recording Duality, that was a mixture of at Jess Lamb's, the Harrison Sky Deck, and then I was at the Lounge over in Kentucky, and I worked with this amazing engineer named John. He was like, me and John was like this, man. John was just this like, he was so respectful and like kind, but then also like tweaked out. Like me and him, we worked out perfectly because he had like, his brain was insane. Like he had this like clown obsession and like would like put a song, like put it on a tape, put it in, reverse it. Like we did one song where everything was in reverse. Like it just, no idea was too outlandish for John, and he knew how to handle every bit of equipment. So I'd be like, John, I think I kind of want it to sound like this. He'd be like, okay, go over here, plug this in, and then it sounded exactly how I wanted. So I worked with John for a couple months, and the Lounge is so big that was one of the first experiences where I was able to like get local artists in there, put everybody on a mic in the same room, and do like an old style Wu-Tang like type session where I got Jay Hill right here, I got JB right here, Devin's here, I'm here, Z's over here, like all the artists, Roberto's over there, like, and we all just rapping back and forth, back and forth. I created so many tracks from that time that honestly have not dropped. I just got like 20-minute tracks from that time, and then I created Duality at the same time, brought the kids in, their voices are all over it too, and then finished that with John. That was one of my favorite experiences ever. As I get more experience, as I go do different things, I don't have a sound. And it used to stress me out so bad because I'm like, what is my sound? How do I shop it if I don't have a sound? But I like so many sounds. Like I want to be a rock star. I want to be a poet. I want to be a rapper. I want to sing like Aretha Franklin. I also want to rap like Scarface. Like I got all type. There's no consistency to it whatsoever. I just love sound, and I love pushing the type of sound that I can make. And I really think that's from that like influence with my mom and all of them, and just watching them express the same thing, but they doing it 10 different type of ways. Like, and each way has like its own little magic to it. So I just be trying stuff. Like if you listen to my albums, they don't always sound like they by the same person, and it definitely don't sound like the same voice sometimes either. Like I just try a whole bunch of different stuff. I've worked with a lot of different people. That's not consistent either. Like I think also with the sound, the imagery changes too. So I've always worked with different people. For I Am What I Am, it was Nyla. She does like a lot of like hyper realism, Afrofuturistic type of like imagery. So we use that for I Am What I Am. For Duality, it was actually an old friend who did like more animation, and I wanted to do that like light and dark. So it was like a Siri that was like, and then it was a Siri who was like, like on the other side, and it was kind of just showing like the two sides of myself as well. And I used that animation style for that. For Big Fish, my friend Mags, incredible, absolutely incredible. They do like, it's like a crossover animation, and then it also is like some hyper-realism in it too. But they really worked out concepts for not just the album, but like every single had like its own visual with it too. And it was like, it was beautiful. And then for Soft Life, I actually worked with Kayla Marie Media and Julian, and yeah, we did like just a real realistic photo. That was the first album that I ever had that had like my face on it, like regular and not animated or anything like that. So many of them got me excited right now. I'm gonna start with the women because until recently, I have not had access to that many women, and I haven't seen women like go crazy like this, you know, in our specific climate. So in those specific order, New Blanco, Bali Quinn, Mighty Love, K Sosa, Safa, Zella just made a return, and oh my God, I love Zella music so much, so much. Jess Lamb, of course, because Jess Lamb is just constantly reinventing herself and just got accepted into the Grammy or the Record Academy. So shout out to Jess Lamb, always going up for me. Abby Weiss. Abby Weiss, that's one of my favorites. Like sound-wise, Abby is insane. Like the things that she can hear, crazy. She produced a couple tracks on Big Fish too. Specifically, one of my favorites, Valhalla. Like she went crazy on that. I, you said Tip Hop, thank you. Tip Hop, Anna Applegate. Artists I've been working with forever, but like have had a full circle, you know what I'm saying? Where now I'm around all of them. I'm like, this is great. Tiger Goods, on the male side, T Ballin. He's so fun right now. It's this kid who just walks around with like a full suit on, like Man in Black. He has like his hair is like bobbed, and he's so funky. Like he be dancing and I got the group. Like he one of those, and it's the most entertaining thing I have seen recently. Too Rich Benji, I feel like he's finally getting that. He's been out here for honestly longer than I have, and he's finally getting like a lot of the recognition that he deserves. I'm excited about that. Devin Burgess is about to have a crazy run. Swootie Mac is always one of my favorites. Swoop can't do no wrong in my eyes. Roberto is starting to have a crazy run too. I feel like the products the projects he put out recently and the visuals he put out recently just seem elevated from him. He seems like he's real focused. Excited to see what he does. I'm trying to think of anybody else. It's so many artists. I literally just have been meeting nothing but new artists. I'm like, where are you even from? So currently, we're starting to see a lot of like activation back in venues. So right now, I always got the comment on Mondays. You see a lot of them at QCR. Thursdays for Just Lim, and she brings out a whole bunch of artists, like the woman I was just mentioning. We do like last Fridays there, and we have open mics. We can always come see these people. I know Somerset is doing music and live music with like Adventure Time. Revel is starting to do a lot more live music now as well. It's so many places, honestly, in OTR where you starting to see a lot of like activation, but there's curators that you can follow. You can find a lot of those people.
For doing it.
Thank you.
First one.
Hey, let's go.